I went to Hong Kong with Rangers on trial. I'd had a lot of interest off them when I was a professional. They'd seen me play quite a lot, and I kind of got the opportunity to go there.
Jack, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to be able to kind of share my experiences with you and obviously everyone that's listening as well. So
yeah, of course, mate. I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. Just a bit of context to Jack. He used to be a professional footballer for Hartlepool, and you're currently playing for Marsk
United, yeah.
Marsk United
in the Northern Premier League, the Bet Victor League. So I've been there for about 2 years now, and I kind of had a bit of a stint at Children for a little while after I left professional football. Really enjoyed it at Children, and then eventually went to Marsk, which was a league above. So nice to get another step up. I've been there ever since. So
yeah. No, because I've seen some of the videos of you training. I'm not sure whether it was at Shildon or Marsk. I think it might have been Marsk. And like the technique is like ridiculous. I was watching it on Twitter. If you give us a sec.
All right, yeah.
And let me just screen share.
It probably was from Marsk. We have a guy who, he's our assistant manager, but he likes to always take Snapchat, like Snapchat videos and that sort of thing. Yeah. A lad called Wardy, and he's brilliant. He always records stuff. So yeah.
Mate, check this out. The technique on it.
Yeah. To be fair, that's not bad.
Weather looks good. Conditions look good. I love it, man. I love it.
I know. Back in the days when we could actually play football, it seems like a distant dream now. It's crazy.
I know, man. I'm sick of being cooped up, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm fed up. I've kind of lost the motivation to do exercise as well. Just because obviously being busy and stuff, but. Yeah, it's kind of like I want to get back into it just purely because of my fitness as well. But hopefully soon we can.
I mean, because you're still playing at a very good level, aren't you? Like Marsk is still a very good level.
Yeah. Respective to Marsk, the league we're in, we were kind of up there before everything stopped. We were kind of pushing towards promotion, and we went on quite a decent FA Cup run this year. We had some big opponents that we played against, and we were one round off getting to the first round proper, which would have been an amazing experience. But unfortunately, we just didn't get to that point. But I'm thoroughly enjoying my football again. I think that was one major thing that when I was a professional footballer, at times it was so tough that it was kind of like it took the enjoyment away from it, because obviously it was my job and it was kind of important I had to kind of get into the team, or whether it was, I wasn't playing well or whatever reason it was kind of like there would be some sort of reason where if I wasn't doing something the way I wanted it to be done, or if the manager wasn't happy or whatever, it was kind of like I didn't have anything to escape from that was my life. But on the other hand, now I've kind of got a job that I really enjoy, and then I've obviously got this is a part-time job. I still class it as a job, but I don't see it as much as of it to be so serious. I still take it seriously. I am genuinely a fit person anyway, but I always kind of put 110% into football all the time whenever I'm playing. So
no, I get that. Yeah, I mean, you just touched on the point of what a lot of professional footballers normally say, or people who I've sort of had the experience of speaking to who got scouted. And one of the things that they always say is loads of people are always jealous of them, but they always say the same thing really of, well, it's kind of sucked the fun out of playing football in a way. I'm not saying that happens to every professional, but it's definitely a common occurrence. For instance, you're told that's your job, that's what you're doing, you work towards that. Whether it's from the theory or the immense sort of fitness levels that you have to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, to be honest. But I you know, like you was touching on there, you're a videographer now, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
videographer now for a company called Bauer Media. So I've been doing that since not last August, the August before. I was lucky enough to get an apprenticeship before all COVID kicked off, and it was kind of 5 months into my apprenticeship, and then obviously COVID happened. Uh, but it was I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those jobs that I kind of see myself in for the rest of my life. To be honest, I think the skills that I've kind of gained from this job has been amazing. You know, obviously being from a football background, I kind of didn't have that experience working in a normal. I know people say 9 till 5 job, but
Yeah.
this has kind of given me them experiences to be able to kind of go, oh well, I actually can survive outside of football. And you know, that was probably one of the problems, was kind of I had too many eggs in one basket, which was just
Mm.
purely football. And you know, I was at one point where I was younger and I was kind of like, yeah, and football is going to be the rest of my life. You know, I'm going to get to 32-year-old, I'm going to retire, and I'm going to have a nice, comfortable life and things like that. And you know, probably that was about 18-year-old when I probably signed my first professional contract. It was kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to have some sort of sport related, job, regardless. And it was kind of, I got to, coming towards the end of my professional contract, and it was kind of like, yeah, this maybe isn't for me. I'd kind of done everything that I kind of could to be able to kind of give myself the best opportunity, or what I believed was the best chance. Maybe I wasn't the most dedicated person in the gym, or I think that was one thing that people kind of looked at me and kind of went, "Oh, he's a bit small," or
Mm.
he's not the biggest of lads. And the league I was in at the time was League Two, and it was a physically demanding league. And I know that that was one of the main reasons why I probably didn't feature as much. Was because I was so small.
Yeah.
But that was never my game. I was always nimble, and like you said earlier, and that video technique wise, me touch, and that was sort of the thing that kind of made me stand out. Um, you know, I did some amazing things during the 2 years that I was a professional footballer, and starting from the beginning, obviously from the age of 9 going all the way up to the youth team.
Yeah.
I remember getting, from the age of 14. I remember getting a phone call, and it was from at the time, the youth academy manager at Hartlepool, and I'd already kind of known that Newcastle were interested in me. And Newcastle being my dad's team, it was always something my dad wanted to kind of do. I played Newcastle on numerous occasions. Being like, obviously from that area, we kind of had a lot of friendlies and stuff like that with Hartlepool and Newcastle, and obviously the likes of Sunderland and Middlesbrough. We tend to play them quite a lot if it was either pre-season friendlies or if we needed a match or anything like that. And I remember getting a phone call off the youth academy manager. Well, I didn't at the time; it was my dad.
Mm.
And he kind of like said, "Look, Jack, we want to offer you your youth team contract early." So it was basically, they offered me a 4-year deal at the age of 14 to kind of keep me at the club, because at the time they wanted me there, and it was great because I kind of had that. It was always still in the back of my mind. Am I going to go into football after I leave school?
Yeah.
And even at such a young age, there was that many people that were like, "You've got so much ability, you're going to be a great player, and we want you to stay at the club," and all this sort of stuff. And it was kind of like, it was a bit of an eye opener, really. It was kind of like, wow, it starts now, really. And I'm only 14-year-old at this point, and it gets to a point where it's like, it was a bit surreal. And I didn't tell anyone. I was the only person, and I've never really spoke about this as well.
Mm.
I was kind of the only person in the team at that age to have been offered, a youth team contract. Before some of the under 16 players had been offered because of the interest from Newcastle.
Yeah.
and it was amazing. I was sorted for 4 years, like 4 years of my life. I was kind of guaranteed football with Hartlepool, regardless of whatever happened. Um, and it kind of also gave me the chance to kind of focus in school as well, which was never my strong suit. I wasn't great in school. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy academic, like that sort of side of my life. I just absolutely loved sports, and that was the only thing I wanted to do. And all I wanted to do was play football as well.
Mm.
But I kind of, speaking to my parents and obviously my mum, especially, just being like, you need to stick in at school, and you need to make sure you have a bit of a plan B in case anything doesn't work out. And obviously it obviously hasn't worked out the way I kind of obviously wanted it to, but I've kind of landed on my feet with the job that I do now, and it's just it was crazy at the time, but yeah, mad.
You've done really well for yourself, to be honest, mate. I mean, I've heard some stories, and it's quite a common theme when it comes to pro footballers, 16, 18-year-olds, concentrating on the football. It's their life, and then when they get the cord cut, they don't know what to do with themselves.
It was,
what I mean?
It was crazy.
It's not a nice. I'm guessing it wasn't a nice experience. Like,
do you know what my experience when it was coming towards of my professional contract? It was kind of like I'd come to terms with it in myself that I had kind of not worn my time out at Hartlepool, but it was kind of like, yeah, this is the right time if I'm going to leave. This is the right time to leave.
Yeah.
Obviously, looking back from obviously when I started in the youth team, I was flying. First year scholarship went really smoothly. It was obviously tough coming into a new environment, being around the first team, obviously being around the first team manager and all that sort of stuff, having this sort of, really professional environment, sports coaches, people looking after you in the gym and stuff, doing weekly gym sessions, that sort of thing, like stuff that was just so different to me. And obviously I'd do 2 weeks, two times a week. I would train normally if I was in school, and then it was kind of like the one thing that, and one story that I always tell people is like the sacrifices that you have to kind of make at such a young age. I remember it was obviously coming to the point where I was leaving school. We had our prom night, and obviously everyone's, as normal proms are, people go out, they have a good time, they have their prom, and then they go out afterwards and just have a bit of a barney. But I wasn't able to do that. I kind of had to, the next
knuckle
day,
down.
The next day, I literally started training, so I couldn't go, and I missed out on like some great times with a lot of friends, and that was hard. I missed out on that, and I don't regret it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would always make the same decision. But looking back at it now, you kind of don't, at the time, you don't think, oh, that is a big deal. Like I'm missing something really important. That a lot of my friends have kind of got them experiences, and I kind of had to like, make that choice. And in my eyes, it'll always be the right choice. So yeah, that was one of probably the one of the main things that kind of stuck out was, the sacrifices you make at such a young age to become like a footballer. And obviously it hasn't worked out. But yeah, like you say, I've kind of landed on my feet as well. So I'm very grateful either way.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, no, I completely understand. Especially with the sacrifice part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As you're growing up, you've got all of these different experiences, and you're giving everything up for this dream, the idea of being a professional footballer. Yeah. And you made it, which is really good. So, just a quick one: how did you actually manage to become a professional footballer? Like, so as in, take us through the steps from where it all began to you signing your first pro contract. What was the steps there?
Very long process. But it was kind of just, I think I started when I was 9 years old in the wasn't the academy, it was the development centre for Hartlepool. And it was kind of just, obviously, year by year, you have what these things called appraisals. And every year you would kind of get told whether you would obviously be kept on and stuff. And it was obviously just it. I had an older brother at the time. I have an older brother, and he was a footballer as well, and he was a professional. He wasn't professional as long as me, but it was kind of, I always looked up to what he kind of done as well.
Yeah.
But so I started off at 9, and obviously going up the ranks, under 11s and 12s and the 13s and the 15s and 16s, and then it goes to youth team. And it was obviously at that point of 14, I kind of got my youth team contract as well. But it was kind of, I kind of went all that way from being such a young age and like learning so much. I think being in the same club helped. I know a lot of people probably bounce from different places, trying to find the right club for them and stuff. Maybe they've been released and then they went and had a trial elsewhere. But it was kind of fed into me, obviously, from such a young age. It all started from when I was a toddler, I remember some of the very early photos of when I was born, of me in a football kit. I think it was just like bred in me that I was going to be a footballer. And my brother obviously was the same. And it was kind of growing up watching him, and I was kind of like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to do what he's doing. It was amazing. I'd go to training every Tuesday, Thursday normally.
Yeah.
And that was always great. It was nice to see friends as well that were obviously in different schools from different areas, people from Newcastle, Middlesbrough, all over the place. And obviously you go up and certain people get let go, that, obviously weren't deemed good enough. Were they good enough? They might have been in other people's eyes, football is a massive game of opinions, and I always say that you do need a little bit of luck on your side when you kind of going through that full process. And it was kind of, up until the point where obviously I'd kind of left Hartlepool at the end of my professional contract, it was kind of like I never really had, not rejection, but I never really had a failure yet. Every year, like obviously I surpassed everyone and got another year extension, and it was kind of obviously the same thing until I was obviously 14 and I got my youth contract. And then obviously from the youth team, because a lot of the same stuff was kind of from the age of 9 to under 16. You'd have your appraisal, you'd obviously train throughout the year. You wouldn't have a league. It would normally just be games on a Saturday or a Sunday. You'd play in them games, and it was kind of obviously based on just pure performance. And obviously you would then get to youth team, and then youth team was just a total different kettle of fish. It was just kind of, you were thrown in, you'd be in every day, because at the time Hartlepool were in the leagues, which was a really, really high level. I think when I started in the youth team, we were in the 4th tier of English. No, is it?
That's the conference.
That's not right. No, so it's a League 2. So what is that? Because do the class?
No, it is League 2. Yeah.
So is that classed as tier 4? It is, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, League 2, but I can't remember what it was called at the time.
I think it's the EFL. I think it's EFL.
Still the EFL.
But yeah, so at the time Hartlepool were in League 2, and it was kind of, a big step up for me. And obviously my main aim was obviously just get into the first team. Not get into the first team. It was kind of like, little steps. We obviously set goals, and you would speak with the youth team manager, and you'd be like, what goals do you have for this season? My goals would probably be trim with the first team, that sort of thing, to try and kind of, ease yourself into the first year of the season, and kind of get your feet under you. And that was kind of the process for that. You would obviously have your year. You do pre-season, so you would go away for pre-season normally. I think the first year we went to like a camping area, and it was kind of all team bonding, that sort of thing, building skills with each other and stuff, communication, that sort of thing. And then you'd obviously have your really hard running training, and a lot of the training we did was so tough. It was just so physically demanding. Like,
imagine, man.
The amount of times, like, I've obviously pushed myself to the max, and after the session I've been sick, or threw up, or one of the things that I will always hate in my life is running. It's just not
That's
fun.
ironic, isn't it, being a footballer?
Yeah, it's just like, football running is completely different to being forced to go and do a run on a running track.
Well, it is a bit different, isn't it? I mean, it's very intense football. I mean, especially if you play 5-a-side or something like that, or even on, it's not as intense as an 11-a-side pitch. But if you're just consistently running or doing sprints, then that's a lot worse than stopping and starting and passing the ball and moving about.
Yeah.
So I do understand what you're saying. It's just just found it funny.
It's just I think I've got a lot of I think I am cursed from it, because I know I have to do a lot of running now to keep kind of myself fit, and it's always the last thing that I want to do. I would much rather obviously go to the gym, but obviously we can't do that at the minute.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of halted me a bit, because it's like I just don't want to go and just start running, and I just feel like it's not pointless, but it's one of them things where it's especially with football, I always feel like football fitness is completely different to just running on a track. You could do as much running as you wanted, pre-season, whatever.
Yeah.
As soon as you step on that pitch and you do a full game, a full 90 minutes, your body reacts different, and no matter how much you've done, that level of match fitness, what we call it, is kind of, you never have that until you start playing games.
Yeah.
And I remember one season we kind of, I think it was the first season that I was a youth team scholar. It was kind of, we're on a running track, because we used to train at Durham University. I don't know if the first team still train there. I think it's changed now.
Yeah, I drive past there pretty much. Like.
Yeah.
Work, so.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much where we used to train. I think they had a partnership with the university there. And they had a running track, and obviously that was the worst thing for us. And I remember pretty much the first couple of sessions of pre-season, that was kind of our home. We were never away from it. We didn't have the balls out, and I expect that, and I expect that normally from a pre-season anyway. But it was kind of, I remember the session like exactly. It was 1,500 meters, 800 meters, 400 meters, all in one. So you would be in two groups. So one group would go, you'd do your 4 laps, because that was 1,500 meters, and then the other team would go do their 1,500, and then while they're doing that, you would have your rest. Then you would have your 800 meters, and then you would do that run. They would be resting, then they would do it, and vice versa. And then you'd go all the way down, and then you'd go all the way back up. So like
it's just to push you a bit more.
Yeah, the basically, I remember my coach at the time, he called it the pyramid, and it was just horrendous. That's one of the more painful ones that I kind of remember. And just that at the end, when you're kind of thinking, and bearing in mind this, the rest that you have isn't a rest. It feels like it goes in like seconds.
Yeah.
And I only had 4 years in like professional, like obviously full-time football. So I can't imagine the stories that other people like full-time who've gone like their full career for 15 years or however long people play for, what stories they could kind of tell, because them sticks like vividly, like them stick really, really like true to me because of the pain I kind of went through when I was doing them. So, but
yeah, no, it's intense. It's an intense profession, isn't it? Like you're a professional athlete, so you have to be at top form all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that means, obviously, like you were saying, a lot of sacrifice and a hell of a lot of fitness training as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just sort of coming back to becoming a professional footballer. I actually pulled something up that was really interesting. And,
Yeah.
it's a fact about the odds on becoming a professional footballer at Premier League level.
Right.
So
Okay.
it says the most damning statistic of all is only 180 of the 1.5 million players who are playing organised football in England at
Mhm.
any one time will make it as a Premier League professional. 180 out of 1.5 million.
Do you know, you saying that, it's like, it's crazy because, you know, you think about how many teams are in the Premier League and, you know, how many players are in each squad, and that 180, it does seem like not a lot, but then it seems like, oh yeah, there's still quite a few players that have kind of made it. You know, it is such a what is it? What's the word for it? Such a competitive, you know,
Yeah.
sport and an area of work to be in. You know, I don't even know the statistics for even, you know, not necessarily a Premier League footballer, but just becoming a footballer in any league, you know, in general. I can't imagine the number being high, and I think that is one of the problems with kind of, you know, kids growing up with football and being in academies and, you know, centre of excellence and all that sort of stuff, is kind of, they don't know to the extent of, you know, how hard it is.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of, you know, it destroys kids, if I'm
Oh, yeah.
perfectly honest. And, you know, I was obviously one of the lucky ones that kind of got to where I kind of wanted to be at a certain point in my career. And it was kind of like, you know, I didn't even take into account the people that have obviously fell short or who haven't obviously made it, and, you know, how heartbreaking it must have been, because, you know, it was hard for me when I kind of left and kind of made the decision, you know, I'm not going to keep chasing the professional football game anymore. And I kind of need to go, right, well, I need to kind of like look for a job here. It's getting to a point now where, you know, I can't do much more. I've done everything I can.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably is one of the problems with the way football is kind of set up. And I don't think there's enough sport out there for kids that obviously don't make it. You know, obviously as a kid, if you kind of maybe 13, 14, you kind of get released, it's kind of like you've still got some of your childhood to kind of, you know,
Enjoy.
figure out, yeah,
Yeah.
enjoy, and then kind of figure out what you want to do with your life. And, you know, but when it gets to, you know, into
16,
scholarships,
18-year-old.
yeah, and you come
you,
to
you're
a point where,
floating. Yeah, you're floating
yeah,
around that sort of college, university idea.
yeah,
You know, do you really sort of knuckle down, double down,
yeah,
and go down
absolutely,
this path, or do
yeah,
you sort of look for a future somewhere else?
yeah. And it was kind of like, you know, 16, I'd obviously left school, went straight into football. I had one time a week, we went to college. It was kind of compulsory. You know, all the lads hated it, never wanted to be there, and, you know, typical, like, because you're in that environment, you just want to play
Yeah,
football. You don't want to be doing that. But then obviously on the flip side, you know, I had friends that were kind of going into apprenticeships, and like I was obviously at the time, like, I was in the best position ever. You
mm,
know, I was on top of the world. You know, doing what I love, like doing what everyone dreams of doing.
yeah,
Um, but then flip side it to when I kind of left my job as a footballer and kind of came into the like what I'd say the real world, you know, and kind of looked around and was like, you know, seeing some of my good friends, you know, great jobs, you know, really good jobs, really well
yeah,
paid jobs that they would kind of be in for the rest of their life, you know, secured them for, you know, years and years and years to come.
yeah,
And it was kind of like, I was like, what do I do now? You know, I've kind of been not left on my own, because it was kind of like, this is the adult life now. You've got to kind of fight for yourself, and no one's going to do everything for you. Like I said earlier, the only kind of thing that kind of prepped me was kind of, I'd had time to process that this was possibly coming to an end.
yeah.
Um,
So it wasn't
you
such a
know,
shock when it
yeah, when it
it
happened,
eventually did.
yeah,
Sort of
yeah,
like a smooth runway.
yeah, I'd kind of just, you know, come to a realization that, you know, maybe it wasn't, and I'll touch on it more later as well, but maybe it wasn't the job that I wanted to do. You know,
Yeah,
it wasn't all that it seemed to be. Um, and some people have that a very different opinion on that. But I found it just not very tough, but it was very hard to break through. And I did break through at certain points. Um, and but on the other hand, I would look at people that didn't get the opportunities that I got, kind of like would try and think of putting myself in their shoes and be like,
Yeah.
how much
I've made
they
it
be
this
feeling?
far. Yeah.
Yeah, and
No, I
it's
get that. Yeah.
I
And
do,
that's just, sort of being grateful as well at the same time.
yeah,
Any sort of human being can be grateful, but what you have to remember is that you've worked just as hard as they did,
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
but got rub of the green as well. At the same
yeah,
time, I
I
managed
know,
to work your way up.
and that's also where it's kind of like football is. I always have said, and I always think it'll be the same as to gain of opinions. It's like it is a bit like obviously a normal day-to-day job. Someone gets a promotion over you, and you don't get that promotion, or you know, it's kind of that sort of. But I think in football, it's kind of treated differently.
Mm,
It's kind of like, oh well, if I haven't got a contract, I'm not good enough. You know, when in
yeah,
actual fact that might not be the case.
yeah. Because
Football's very
I mean, it could have been
different.
completely different if you went to Newcastle. Like
Exactly.
someone
Yeah.
there might have been saying, "Oh, actually, his technical capability is way
Yeah.
above League Two and is
Yeah.
perfect for this role in the Premier League
Mhm.
or in the Championship." You know what I mean? It could be
Yeah.
different.
Very different.
And I mean, looking at like the sort of technique and the clips that I've seen of you, you're very agile, and your dribbling skills and your pace is what
Yeah.
is your strength. Obviously, from what I've seen, I know you personally. You're a small fella,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Very
but
small.
yeah, but Messi's a small fella, and he's the world's
Exactly. Yeah.
greatest player. You know what I mean? It just
Hmm.
depends on where how you work within a team, I guess. And to be fair, in my personal opinion, and I'm not saying that just because I like you and I know you,
Yeah.
you should have been playing above League Two, in my personal opinion. I thought you would have worked well in the Championship myself. Um,
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like it comes back to when I was a kid and stuff, and did I make that right decision at 14? Should I have signed a contract with Hartlepool? And I won't. I don't want to ever take anything away from the time I had at them clubs, because
yeah,
I'm forever grateful. And behind me
yeah, I get that.
there is my you know my shirt that I from not that it's not my debut shirt. I gave my debut shirt to my dad. Something really special. It was as much as it meant to me. It was something that I always wanted to kind of give to my dad. Because he was always the one that, as well as my mum, they were always the ones that were there on the sideline cheering me on. Um, that was from one of my second games that I played for Hartlepool, and one of the best games that I kind of believe I had in a Hartlepool shirt. And um, like I say, I don't want to take it away from them clubs, but if I was at a different team, maybe the likes of Newcastle, would I ever had a better platform to get to, not because the way I see it is kind of like, even if I'd kind of stayed at Hartlepool, there was kind of, if I wasn't doing good enough, there was only one way I could go, and that was obviously down the leagues.
Yeah,
But with Newcastle, if I for players like that who were in the academies there and they've kind of obviously signed professional contracts, some players might not ever make it into the first team, but because you're at a club like Newcastle, you've got other opportunities. There's teams that probably would want to take you on loan. You see all these kids going out on loan. I think there was a guy that played for Chelsea. I think I can't remember if it was Oscar Piazon. I think he was Brazilian. I can't remember if I don't know if I've said his name correct, but I think he played a handful of games for Chelsea, but he was there for such a long time.
yeah,
But he went on loan to a load of different clubs because he was obviously from Chelsea. That kind of give him that platform to kind of if he wasn't playing at that level, he could kind of go, and he could go anywhere really, because Chelsea's one of the biggest clubs in the world. Every person would want to play for a club like that.
Yeah, of course.
He kind of had these opportunities to go and play for these lower teams, but get his name established to the point where, if he ever was to leave Chelsea, someone would take him.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, that was the difficult thing from probably being at my level, was kind of, I'm at Hartlepool United, I'm not at one of the best teams in the world. It's no offence to Hartlepool, but, it was kind of that, if I don't do it here, I've got nowhere else to go, really. If I go on loan somewhere, I'm only going, I think my first loan move was to Shildon.
Right.
And Shildon's in the Northern League, non-league football, and that's not taking anything away from Shildon, but for me, it was at Hartlepool. That's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be higher. I wanted to be at a bigger club.
Yeah, of course.
And you do look back and you go, should I have done this? Should I have done that? Should I have made that decision? And I try not to do that, because it's kind of like, I'm in a great position now.
I get what you're saying, but I think it's just human nature to sort of dwell on things, isn't it? I mean, I do it every day, like with certain opportunities that I've had and they've slipped away, or we do it. It's just a human thing, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's really tough. Like, I look back and I go, if I was being perfectly honest, do I feel like I could have had a better career? I genuinely do. Certain reasons being, it could, part of the reason probably is, to certain people I wasn't good enough, but I did believe I was good enough. I'm not saying that I should have been, this mega star, but do I feel like I could have had a bigger, not a bigger future, but a bigger, longer career, a lot, like, just purely because of, I had put a lot of hard work in, and, you have to have self-belief in football to be able to achieve anything. And there was at one point when I was playing for Hartlepool, it was kind of like, I felt invincible, I felt like there was no one that I could come, no defender that I would come against that, would be able to, like, stop me. Because like you talked about there, was kind of, you've obviously looked at some of my clips, and one of my main things was running at people. I like to be a nuisance and cause havoc for defenders, and I always feel like that's hard to find. And
it is such an attacking midfielder anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's why I got the interest I did when I was at Hartlepool. Like, I don't feel like, I look back now and I go, well, was I even, good enough at all? But I feel like for clubs to have been interested, and the clubs that were interested, I feel like I had to have some sort of, ability to be able to have even been recognised by some of the clubs that were recognising me.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, and that was during my scholarship period when I was a scholar with Pools. I think it was I can't remember if it was the end of my first year scholarship or if it was beginning of the second year. But I had mass amount of interest from, some really high, like, big, highly rated clubs. Just to name a few, like the biggest being Man City.
You were on trial there, weren't you?
Yeah, I went there for 2 weeks.
Didn't you score? Did you score on your trial?
I did. Yeah. It's actually on YouTube.
It's on YouTube, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's horrible because it cuts off when I score. It cuts off.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was watching it. I was like, "Whoa, look at this!"
I couldn't believe it.
Cut off.
It was, I think being on, that was so hard, and I think that's one thing that, there's a lot of. If you've ever been in football, a lot of people will know what I mean. Is when you're at Hartlepool, especially, people coming in on trial, and it's like, oh God, it's another trialist. There's stigma around that within football, and it.
So when you say stigma, like, is in what? Why? Like, is in what kind
of
stigma?
I don't know.
As in, oh,
I think
we've got a new recruit, like trying to break into the team. Another
there's
person who's being competitive for my place, that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
There's that angle, and then there's also the angle of is the rubbish,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
it
Either
is,
good or
and
the rubbish, like personal
yeah,
opinions again.
and that's why I also think football is so ruthless, and it is like it's the first thing someone comes in, and you have this instant thought about like, oh, I bet he's rubbish, it's just so
Yeah.
very toxic, I always think that football in certain, I don't know what, because I can only speak from my experiences, but
Your personal point of view. Yeah.
very a very toxic at times, some amazing times, and
Mm.
but very toxic environment to be involved in.
Do you think
And obviously,
that sort of stems from the competitiveness? Like,
I think so. I
yeah,
think so, and I think if you're in football, you're going to have a competitive edge, regardless of who you are.
yeah.
Uh, and it's kind of that's always going to be there. But when you actually come and look at it from a different angle, it's like, you know,
So
why
as
is
if
it
you're
like
part of
that?
a bubble, like you're
Yeah,
part of something
yeah,
that
absolutely.
is just a certain amount of people, and you're up against these certain amount of
Yeah,
people. A bit like the Hunger Games.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I remember getting that phone calls, and I was um, I was training with the first team with Hartlepool and stuff, and I was doing really well. I was playing out my skin for the youth team. God, I was not I wasn't a scorer. I wasn't a massive scorer. I would score, but I would just set up people for fun.
Yeah.
And and I did. I wouldn't sit there and like say I was all this and all that. I wasn't all this and all that, but I was, at that time when I was playing the youth team, I was doing very, very well. And that was the reason why I went to the places I kind of did.
Yeah.
Um, I had an agent at the time because, that was also one thing I kind of learnt from my brother. After my brother stopped playing, it was kind of, he had no direction to go in. Um, and I had this company that looked after me, and they absolutely looked after me. They never took a penny off me. They always looked after me. It was their aim was to get me to where they believed I could kind of get to, which is why they never took money off me, or you know and it was always kind of they wanted to see me succeed. And
Yeah.
it was kind of always the long term, you'll repay us in the future, that sort of thing. And obviously all this sort of interest from like Man City and other clubs started. And I remember getting a phone call and just saying like, and this was the time where new managers were coming in for Hartlepool.
Okay.
It was kind of, it was a tough period for Hartlepool as a club. And it was kind of, I obviously still very young, but obviously still had my eyes set on getting a professional contract for Hartlepool because that was the team I was at. And I remember getting the phone call and saying, "Oh, Man City have been watching you. You've got someone coming to watch you, and blah blah blah. Whenever, kind of just keep doing what you're doing, and and we'll see what happens." And then obviously it turned into Man City getting in touch with Hartlepool because obviously it had to be all done properly. And they got in touch and kind of said, "Look, we want to take Jack for a trial." And I was just I was at Hartlepool, but it was kind of like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah. When Man City comes knocking, you're not gonna not
Nah,
take that
just
opportunity, are you?
when does that ever happen? You
Yeah.
know, and it was kind of like, if I don't take this opportunity now, I'll regret it. And I look back now and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
I went there for 2 weeks. I didn't go there first. It was kind of that at that point I was kind of going to a lot of clubs. I remember I went to Aston Villa, West Brom. Let's go Aston Villa, West Brom. Did I go to? There was a few clubs anyway. And the ones that obviously stick out to me mainly is Aston Villa and West Ham and Man City.
Yeah.
I remember going to Aston Villa first, and that was amazing. I was staying with a family, obviously in digs. Kind of was there for a full week, trained with their under 23s, under 18s, and I loved it. I fit in really well. It was great. I remember one guy that I kind of got on really well with, a guy called Keenan Davis, who was actually still playing for Aston Villa now.
Oh yeah.
He was kind of he actually was, he was coming through at the time. He just come from a non-league team, and he just kind of come to the club, and he was new himself, and he kind of showed me round, and credit to himself, he kind of helped me get involved and kind of helped me settle. And I remember we played a game against Leicester at Leicester's training ground, and I didn't start the game. I didn't expect to. It was the first game I was going to play for Villa.
Yeah.
And I come on. I think I come on last 20 minutes. My mum and dad had travelled down to watch. I was playing against some probably Premier League players who were in that team now.
Yeah.
And I remember obviously playing the game, and I did really, really well. And after the game, Villa spoke to me and was kind of like, "We want you to come back. We want you to come back next week." But the week after, I was at City.
Right.
So I kind of had to, obviously, it was either do I tell City I can't come back? Villa were really interested.
Yeah.
But what seemed to be interested, or do I go and have this chance with Man City and arrange something later?
Sounds really difficult, that, man. Like, to sort of, if I can feel it. Like, I can already, sort of like thinking about it, if I was in that position, you'd be like, oh my god, this is a really good opportunity for me at Aston Villa. I could actually play for them, but also Man City's a very good opportunity as well. And
it was kind of like, it was, at the end of the day, it was my decision. And I obviously had guidance from my parents and my agent and stuff at the time, but it was always what I was wanting to do.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, especially at the time, like, I had no doubt I would have went back to Aston Villa at some point, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to go to Man City. I just couldn't.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It was just one of them things where it was like, I have to do this regardless of what happened. I actually went to City kind of probably full well knowing that I wasn't going to get a contract, and it was like, not going in negative, but it was kind of like, this is the best club. These are one of the best clubs in the world, with them, however much money they have, state-of-the-art
ridiculous amount of money.
Like, the training ground was just immaculate. I stayed. I remember when I first went, I stayed in the hotel that they have on campus. They have families that kind of look after everyone, but you have your own hotel room. It's basically, if you've ever been to a Premier Inn, you obviously have. But it's kind of like just a Premier Inn room, but even nicer.
Right, I get what you mean, yeah.
But just like, it was that good, and players had their own space to go and do what they wanted, and and that was just part of the reason why I kind of had to say yes to even going for a trial. I remember turning up, and my dad dropped me off that first day I was going for the full week. I was just blown away.
The whole experience sort of sold it, like, not just the actual football club, but sort of from start to finish, from where you were staying, like, absolutely. And the people that you were speaking to, and the facilities and everything else.
Yeah,
just sold it for you.
Yeah, definitely. And like, he is this young 17-year-old lad, coming through with the ranks. I don't even know if I think I might have still been 16. because I think I was, I think it was that early on. I was still very young.
Yeah.
It was either 16 or 17. Because I remember when I made my debut, I made it before I turned, I think it was either 18 or before I turned 17. It was kind of like,
okay.
And I just remember obviously just thinking like this young lad from, Hartlepool, small town, his dream to play professional football, and I was at Man City, of all like places to be. I was kind of at one of the biggest clubs in the world. I was a Liverpool fan. Well, I still am a Liverpool fan, but it's kind of like Man City's was at that point where they were at the top of the, and they were dominating world football and stuff like that. And it was kind of like, I'm actually here. Like Man City are interested in me, and it was amazing. And that's why I always go back and say, I must have had some, like reasonable level of, ability to be even considered to go for a trial there.
100%.
It doesn't. Things like that don't just happen, just because they want. Well, why would they?
They're not just going around willy nilly, just picking people out for fun. Obviously, they're one of the biggest teams in the world, and they're looking for the best talent and stuff. And that there, sort of validates my point of I thought you should have been playing way above the leagues that you were playing at. You've landed on your feet anyway. You're a great videographer now, aren't you?
Yeah, love it.
but I mean, and it's no, sort of like, I'm not downplaying it because you're a videographer for one of the biggest media companies in the world. Like big brands. We're talking like Kiss Radio. We're talking Kerrang. Talking Absolute Radio, Hits Radio, like all of these amazing brands like you're actually working with. So you've got a really good job. You've got kind of a dream job in the field of videography.
I know. I have honestly, I've kind of come out of football, and I've, I had tough times where I worked some crappy jobs, and I worked for my dad for a while, and labouring, doing hard work. That wasn't easy. Obviously, I used to come into train at 9 o'clock in the morning. This was me getting up at 5:30 to get to work for 6 o'clock. And like work throughout the full day, and it was kind of like I'd never ever done that in my life. It was an eye opener. And then I had a stint working at a golf club, Seaton Golf Club. I had a great time there. It's kind of like the guy who would go around and rake all the bunkers. I'd start work at 6 o'clock. I'd go every bunker on the course. I'd rake every bunker before the players would start coming around. People play golf early. You wouldn't think it, but people play golf early.
I thought people would.
When it's still dark and I remember times it was pitch black, and and I'm raking bunkers, and I might be getting to the 17th hole. It is it's tiring. And there's a guy passing me with like coffee mug, and
just getting holes in while he can.
7 o'clock, and I honestly just crazy. I didn't think people would play golf that early, but
live and you learn, man.
Yeah, I know, but that was a tough job. And then I was doing off jobs for Bauer, a lot of what do you call it? A lot of what's the word?
Freelance work?
No, not freelance. Voluntary work.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of voluntary work for Bauer's live events. And I kind of I loved it. It was just unbelievable, and this was before I even kind of had an inkling that I would kind of wanted to go into this sort of work. It's like working with celebrities, and that I think I got kind of the best bits of what Bauer do. All these big major live events in 3 different cities, that we kind of looked after. That was the first few things that I did.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went on and helped with a lot of the smaller jobs. A lot of the main stuff that I do now as a videographer. and it kind of, you know, then it got to a point where it was like, oh, I really do enjoy this as a way, like I can kind of get more involved, and
Yeah.
it was off my own back really. I was playing part-time football, you know, earning a little bit of money here and there every week, and then doing this during the week, like not getting paid, you know, and just getting the experience, you know, going out on video shoots and getting used to camera equipment and all that sort of stuff, and it was amazing, you know. And I'm kind of wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't have done that. If I hadn't done that voluntary work, you know, and it's like, you know, I've got. I'll have to mention, you know, my uncle as well. You know, he's kind of head of video at Bauer,
Yeah.
and I know it's always that, you know, oh, he's the uncle. He's, you know.
No, but I mean, you work really
Yeah.
hard. From what I can remember, you work really hard.
Yeah.
You know, voluntary, like, you know, you volunteered, like you were saying, but during your internship, you work really hard as well. It's not.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like a glamorous lifestyle that Jack
Yeah.
leads. You know,
Yeah.
from professional footballer to amazing videographer, like working for these amazing media
Yeah.
brands and working with celebrities. But there's a lot of travel, a lot of equipment that you have to set up. You
Yeah.
know, there is a lot of time and effort that goes into what you do.
Yeah.
And you know, and you're a genuinely nice guy, so I'm really pleased for you that you managed to work hard and actually get the internship and eventually go on to get the job as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, you really deserve it, man. Like, it's good.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it is. I'm very happy, you know, after all the stuff I've kind of done with football. You know, I'm at a point now where, you know, I'm happy with what I do.
Yeah.
Play part-time football still. I love football. You know, I'm gutted that I can't play now. You know, I really am. And hopefully at one point, you know, we'll be able to get back playing, and fingers crossed it's sooner rather than later. But, you know, I've got this job now at the minute, and I am full time now, and I am really busy. You know, and I know, like us as a video team, the team that I work kind of within, you know, we're also busy. Not as much obviously lately, just because of COVID. You know,
Yeah.
in terms of actual filming, you know, the kind of we've been given permission to work, you know, so we kind of can do what we need to do. At the end of the day, our role is quite important, in terms of, you know, we do a lot of education stuff, you know, for schools.
Yeah.
You know, trying to still enroll, because obviously people can't go and visit schools and that sort of thing. So it's kind of, you know, we do a lot of things for schools to kind of get stuff in for
During
people
the pandemic.
Yeah, it's really hard.
That's good.
But yeah, so it's really good, and, you know, I think everything that I've experienced and like leading to this moment, you know, I think if one thing that I can kind of majorly take from football is it made me a massively stronger person, you know.
Mentally, like, you've got that's one of the
Absolutely.
things that's always fascinated me about football is the psychological element of it. I mean, you could be, you know, as fit as you want, you can, you know, have the ability, but you've got to have the mental capacity for it as well. That's one of the things that isn't really talked about, I think.
Yeah.
You know, the sort of psychology sort of around football as well.
Yeah.
So we'll do a few quick fire round questions if you want. See how you can sort of answer these.
All right. Okay.
So, how would a day as a professional footballer play out? So, from when you'd get up to, you know, the end of the day, like, what would you do? League Two.
Yeah. So at the time when I was professional, I started. I was driving, so that was obviously really good, because the training ground wasn't close to where I was, and I would car share with quite a few people. To be fair, we all car shared. You know, we would switch between different cars. Training would normally start around 9 o'clock, so it'd probably be, you know, 8:45 meet. You know, if you're late, you get fined. It's as simple as that.
How much would you get fined?
The fines in youth team level weren't bad, but to be fair, because of the youth team wages, it was still a lot. You know, I think if you were late for training, it was about £10. No, £10 just gone. You know,
well,
like
£10 is 4 pints, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? Yeah, but like, you know, you didn't have any like you didn't have anywhere to stand. You know, that was it. You know, if you're late, you pay a fine.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of, pick the lads up. We'd go into training, get there for hopefully a lot earlier than 9:15 instead of cutting it short. Um, and then we would have breakfast. I would normally go for breakfast in the canteen where the university was, because obviously all the university students were using the facilities as well.
Right. Okay.
We'd go and get breakfast. Have a bit of a chill out before training actually started. And then normally we would tend to have what we call prehab. So prehab was just kind of stretching, foam rolling, mobility work, a lot of that stuff.
Right. Okay.
Kind of get you prepared for the session ahead. And then you would have your training session from about 10 o'clock, till, depends really, 12 o'clock, it could be earlier, depending on what the session is. Certain days you would probably practice shape and stuff. Some days you would just do possession and games, things like that. Set pieces, some days you do set pieces. And then certain days it would be, a double day. So I would do 9 till 12, or 10 till 12 for that session. And then depending on whether we had a double session or not, we'd obviously have our lunch, have a bit of a break. Probably it would have been we normally always have a blowout, so it would have been a tough session. And then maybe it's 1:30, maybe it's 2 o'clock. We'd have like a gym session in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Probably I think it used to be 2 times a week we would have gym sessions. Obviously a lot of the lads did their own gym stuff. But yeah, we would have that gym session, which was, compulsory. Everyone had to do it. So probably one day would be legs, and then the other day would be, upper body. It's hard to do legs, especially around the schedule we kind of had, because I know a lot of the first team players had, games on Tuesday and then games on a Saturday. So it was hard to, kind of find time to do leg sessions. It was kind of where the hell you put them in the best, because especially if you're not doing them regularly and you smash out a leg session,
it can take a few days to wear off, can't it? Yeah, which can obviously,
especially the sessions we used to do. We had a great, especially when I was there, we had a great, I wouldn't say he was a PT, but sports scientist that we had, Craig Hubbard, great, great sports scientist who was at Pulse for quite a while. He was really good at what he did, knew what he was talking about. But the sessions he did, Jesus, they were good sessions, but you would know the day after.
Yeah, you were walking down the stairs as if you had rickets.
Yeah, 100%. So, but and I learned a lot of things from that side. I was never the person that was like, oh yeah, I'll go and smash the gym. It was just never me. That's never what I wanted to do. And probably looking back on that was probably something that probably didn't dedicate myself enough to go and do that.
Yeah.
I kind of look at one of the main examples for any person who wants to go into football is Ronaldo. I always say, like, Ronaldo is a product of himself. He's made himself that good.
Yeah.
He's had the ability, but he's done 10 times, more work than any other individual to kind of get his physique where he is. His fitness levels, and that's probably something that, if I look back, and said, oh, really deep down, did you do enough in the gym? Probably didn't. And that's me holding my hands up and saying, I probably could have done more.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, if I'd have wanted to do it, I'd have done it. You need to have some sort of level of enjoyment to be able to do something like that as well.
Yeah.
Which is also where I kind of come back to the point where, was football what I wanted it to be? And I think come to obviously to the end, that's where I kind of was like, well, yeah, maybe it isn't. So, but yeah. That was a bit longer, but that's a day today, yeah.
Yeah. No, I like it, mate. Thanks. So what was the diet like? If you was to be a professional footballer, what was your diet like? Did you have dietitians where they were like, no, you've got to eat this is like a strict routine? Or was it, you can eat kind of healthy if you want, but just stay fit? Like,
I think from the youth team, when I was in youth team, it was kind of like, you can you didn't have a set diet.
Right.
I think it was more because of what the club had access to. You know, we weren't the most highly funded club. We didn't have loads of money, and it was kind of like do with what we have, and
Yeah.
it was kind of like just don't be stupid. You know, you know.
Don't go eating McDonald's every day.
Yeah, you know what you should and shouldn't be eating. You know, and you're training every day, so a lot of what you did eat, you know, you need to fuel your body with the right stuff. You know, in youth team, I probably, you know, I did eat well in youth team. Obviously, still ate takeaways and stuff. You know, like on the odd occasion, you know, just don't, you know, don't be stupid. You know, just be sensible.
Yeah, I get it.
And it's like, and then when I came at the first team, it was kind of a little bit different. You know, our sports scientist Craig normally give us like nutrition plans, and we would have people come in to talk about nutrition and stuff. So we'd have like people come and speak about why it's important, you know, to be at the level you're at. You need to be eating this sort of food, you know.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got to a point where the club kind of put stuff in place to, you know, we'd have meals made for us. We would have meals brought in to kind of, you know, make sure we were getting the right food when we were at training. And that was always good. So in terms of diet, you know, I was good. You know, I wasn't horrendous. You know, I wasn't an angel. I'm not going to say how I was. You know, I did. If I wanted to eat something, I ate it. But I would kind of make it. You know, I would eat it on a Sunday. You know, I haven't got.
Not before the night before a match.
Yeah. Or you know, Saturday night. You know, after we've had a game, I would have that.
Where you'd be able to eventually burn it off at training.
Yeah, and then I'd obviously have Sunday where I could, you know, just have a clean day of eating and then get back to training on the Monday.
Yeah.
I think it's the same for everyone, really. It's just being sensible, not being, you know, stupid. I think obviously the higher you get, the better. Sense. The better it is, yeah. And obviously, if I was at somewhere like Man City, you know, they would have everything and anything.
Yeah.
When I was at Man City, you know, God, training every day, you'd have a meal in the day and then you would have a meal in the night, because obviously I was staying there in the actual campus. So you would have food for you made by the chefs, and that they all have obviously nutrition based on what the club wants you to eat. Yeah. So that's the difference in levels, you know.
No, it is amazing. And you sort of touching on that, I can remember I was watching a video on YouTube. So I went through a stint of watching sort of, you know, what do you have to do to become a professional footballer, and what do professional footballers sort of, what's their diet like, and do the clubs sort of look after them, that kind of thing. I was sort of looking, seeing what was going on behind the scenes in Premier League football clubs, and I came across a video of Southampton, like, and what they do when it comes to training. So what they'll do is they'll weigh the players before they go out to training, every single one of them. And then when they come back from football training, they'd weigh them again. So, and for every kilogram that they'd lost, they had to drink a litre of this concoction that the dietitians had actually bottled up for them. Know about that. Yeah. And I was like, holy crap, like that's mental. And they'd be doing like certain stints throughout the day. So they'd do like 60 minutes on the bike, you know, have a break, then do another 60 minutes on the bike, or go out and do a bit of football training, you know, just sort of mix it up throughout the day. And they'd be doing that consistently quite a lot, you know. And I thought that's mental. And a lot of people don't see that side of, you know, football.
I think, you know, I definitely differs from person to person, you know. Obviously if someone's wanting, you know, needing to gain muscle and all that sort of, you need to kind of be eating more. Yeah. Because that's also one thing, until I've kind of come out of football, I didn't realise how much you need to be eating, you know, to be in physically like good shape. And, you know, over lockdown, the first lockdown we had in the summer, it was kind of like, you know, I wasn't working, I was on furlough, and I kind of went, I'm going to get, you know, really, really fit. It's the fittest I've ever been. You know, I thought I was fit at Hartlepool, you know, but I look at how I was when I was training in lockdown, you know, was fitter than I'd ever been, and that was crazy to me. And it was a lot of the reason I felt so good was because of what I was eating. I got myself a nutrition plan made by a guy I know from
Mm.
Mask, and kind of trained every day religiously, but
Yeah.
very thought out. Like what I was doing. So Monday I would
Yeah.
probably be doing push and pull, and then Wednesday I'd go for a run. So make sure I'm doing cardio as well on top of that. Some days double
So just
session.
really sort of well balanced overall when it comes to
Really
your
well
diet and the
organised.
actual
Yeah,
sort of timetable of your
yeah,
workouts.
yeah.
So it all
And it was
sort of came hand in hand. Yeah.
so I think it does depend on person to person. What type of
Yeah.
diet you kind of have, but like you say there, it shows that when you're at the bigger teams, the level of what they have access to be able to make sure that you're at your peak performance levels. You're
It's
where you
pretty
need
mad.
to be able to. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
crazy.
pretty mad. Because I can remember just going back to sort of training,
Hmm.
what a difference like eating the correct foods and not eating the correct foods make. So I really
Yeah.
went for it. I decided, you know what, I'm going to train 5 days a week. So it'd be three
Yeah.
days in the gym, and then it'd be
Hmm.
2 training sessions with the football club.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't eating right whatsoever. And within like this, by the second week, I was buggered really. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't do it anymore. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the gym. I don't feel all right. Like I feel tired all the time.
Yeah.
It's just because
Absolutely.
I was eating shit really. Like
Yeah.
and I was doing all of this hard work, which I was putting the hard work in, but I just wasn't building up the nutrition and the
Yeah.
diet sort of side of it. And it is a massive thing, the diet side of it.
Yeah. It's kind of like now that I've experienced that as well. And people always say, "Oh, you can't just like do exercise and expect to lose weight." You have to be Everything has to be balanced.
Yeah.
If you want to, maybe it's not necessarily lose weight. If you obviously running a lot and stuff like that, that's naturally going to come anyway. But if you naturally wanting to feel good and wanting to obviously look better, and not necessarily obviously look better, because that's not the reason why I did it, because I look at how I feel now when I wake up in the morning, and obviously like you say what I'm eating in terms
Yeah.
of nutrition wise, the difference I didn't know, because I was so used to the way I was living, and then until I'd done that in lockdown one, I kind of realized, Jesus Christ, that makes such a huge difference in
Massive
terms of
difference.
how you
Yeah.
feel. Like I'm normally used to, every day kind of being like getting through the day, have
Yeah.
coffee, get through the day, feel tired, and come to the end of the day and you're like knackered, you want to go to bed. And it was kind of like through lockdown one, I kind of had so much energy to burn. I felt awake all the time. I didn't feel like I needed to nap, you know, didn't need to snack. That was one of the biggest things that blew my mind, because of the quantities that I was eating,
Yeah.
and the recurrence I was eating it. I didn't have to have a bag of sweets, or
It's
have some.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's
It is.
bizarre, but I just don't think people realize until you actually do it how much it makes a difference.
I'm sort of sat here thinking I must have had like 3 snacks today. Must have had like 3 snacks,
Yeah.
man.
Do you know, I actually haven't, and I'm actually proud of myself.
Well done, man.
Yeah. So I kind of, yesterday I'd seen some videos of, just like, I don't know, from families like before obviously lockdown kind of got really bad to a point, and you know, probably I think it was stuff from a girlfriend that she'd shown me, and it was like stuff of when I would be. You could see the physical difference in me from
Mm.
when I was training, but not only that, like I looked more, not obviously looked slimmer, but looked just way better in
Yeah.
terms of I looked healthy, and and I look back and I go, like I said yesterday to my girlfriend, I was kind of like, I need to get back to where I was, because I look at myself now, like obviously it's hard in these current situations. Obviously, the weather we've got at the minute, I can't really go out and run because it's just so dangerous.
It's dreadful, isn't it? You know what? Actually, I've got a funny story.
Yeah,
Like I see people burning down the road.
Really?
In snowy conditions like this, I'm pretty
It's
sure
bizarre.
somebody was
It blows my
running
mind.
down the road really fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a one-way ticket to getting a broken ankle or leg there.
Straight on
Like,
your ass.
but they were just going for it, like shorts on, northeast,
Yeah.
northeast guy. Oh, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it all the time. But it's like, I need motivation at the best of times to kind of go, I'm going to go and go for a run. But I look outside and I see all the snow, and obviously lighter nights are going to start coming.
As well, man.
Yeah, it's just
cold
I
and
just
miserable.
don't want to do it. So, but yeah.
Okay, so I mean, just touching on certain points, like what's the craziest story you have as a professional footballer that you can remember?
Craziest stories. I think one of the things that stands out to me was something that I'll always tell my kids and stuff. If hopefully one day when I have kids, and it's just an amazing story to be able to tell. Is when I went to Hong Kong with Rangers. I went to Hong Kong with Rangers on trial. I'd had a lot of interest off them. When I was a professional, they'd seen me play quite a lot, and I kind of got the opportunity to go there. And it was due to the reason why I ended up going there was because it was towards the end of the season. And I think what Rangers normally do towards the end of the season, for their younger team, especially the under 23s, they do this thing called Hong Kong Soccer Sevens.
That sounds fun.
Was, honestly, just blew me away. There's a lot of famous people, a lot of highly rated footballers that have played at these tournaments and stuff.
Yeah.
And, they have a Legends one where a lot of legends go and play as well. And it was like, I think it was 4 days we were there for. I think that the tournament itself was 3 or so days. But it was just like on a completely different level. I went down there and trained a few days before we kind of flew out to Hong Kong. We flew from I think we flew from Glasgow Airport. I don't know what the name is, but we flew from there to Heathrow. Then we flew from Heathrow to Hong Kong.
How long was that? Do you know? Like from Heathrow to Hong Kong?
I think Heathrow to Hong Kong was about 15 hours.
That's a canny journey, isn't it? For a tournament.
I think it was. Don't know why 15 hours stands in my head, but I know it was a long time.
Yeah.
But that was just like, even that itself, being asked to go to Rangers, one of the biggest clubs in Scotland, was amazing anyway. But then they kind of turn around and say, look, we want to give you the best opportunity possible to kind of have a good trial with us. We want to take you to Hong Kong. That also showed the level of interest that they kind of had in me, because
to sort of pay for you to go there.
Yeah, they would have had to pay fees for me to play, fees for me to obviously travel and stuff. And I didn't pay a penny, like nothing. And kind of still really, really young, getting this opportunity to go to Hong Kong was amazing.
Massive.
Amazing anyway. And there was players there that, I know one player that's playing in the Premier League at the minute, Hamza Chowdhury, who plays for Leicester.
Yeah.
Played against him, and he was, you compare yourself to the level, and and I did really well when I went there, and that was eventually the reason why I got asked to go back, and that was an unbelievable experience. I managed to, I didn't meet him, but they all say the fat Ronaldo, but the Brazilian Ronaldo was there. He was a guest.
Wow.
And I've still got the video on my phone of being like this far away, and it was just surreal, and whenever you say it to anyone, you're like, nah, you don't know, no, you didn't, and it sounded like, no, I did, and I had that opportunity just purely because of being taken on a trial by Rangers, and it was unbelievable, and all the tournament was on YouTube. The tournament's still there; you can still go back and watch it. I scored in one of the games against the Hong Kong team, we played some great teams. We played Leicester, Cagliari
Yeah,
from Italy. We played some like big teams,
yeah.
and it was just a mad experience.
Sure it was, man. Like, it's quite
Something that,
surreal,
yeah,
isn't it? Like, no,
yeah,
I can see why people would be, sort of taken back because, that kind of trip, that kind of opportunity is a dream come true to people who really
yeah.
enjoy football.
And it was even like crazy because I'm not joking. When we were over there, we were like royalty.
Yeah.
Like honestly, Hong Kong are absolutely crazy for football, and the fans that they had. We were at the airport, coming out of the airport, like obviously arrivals, and like people from Hong Kong, with signs and stuff for Rangers, and you know big
No
groups
way.
of people like waiting for photos, like of us coming through the like the airport like doors, and
It's mad, isn't
just
it?
just crazy. It was kind of like because I'm not known in the UK, and it was kind of like going to Hong Kong
Somewhere
and then
where it's
being
like you're a
like,
celebrity.
hang on a minute, like why are they taking photos of me? All this sort of stuff. So it was crazy, but um. I signed more autographs over there than I ever did anywhere else.
Anywhere else.
So, but yeah,
Uh,
it was, that was an amazing experience. That's something I'll never forget.
yeah. No, that's really cool, man. Oh, yeah, it's very nice. Um, what advice would you give to aspiring footballers who want to go pro, who want to be a professional footballer? What's the advice you'd give to them?
I think, I'm going to be like, not, yeah, I'm going to be realistic, not realistic, but kind of
Be
harsh with,
truthful.
yeah, be truthful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say, expect downs, expect serious downs. Like, it's such a hard sport to be in.
Mm,
You know, be resilient. You know, believe in yourself. I think that's one major thing that you have to believe in yourself. Otherwise,
yeah,
you may as well
100%, man.
not try. Um, if you do get knocked back, bounce back again. I did it multiple times, and
Yeah.
it didn't pay off in the end. I kind of had to. I was forced to make a decision, to kind of stop. But if I was to say don't give up, one person's opinions, you know, doesn't
Different to
matter.
another's, yeah.
It's completely exactly. It's completely different to someone else's. One person might not like you one week. The next week someone might love you. You get your opportunity you need, and I think that's one of the biggest things I can kind of say is, just stick with it. Expect highs, but expect lows as well.
Yeah.
Um, and work hard. You're gonna have to sacrifice. It's obviously everyone says, work hard, you'll get your rewards and stuff. You have to sacrifice a lot.
Yeah.
And I think even in the short space of time that I was professional, I did sacrifice a lot. And I think if you do all them things, I think you'll have a good shot. And I think, I always think you need a little bit of luck. I wouldn't say that's the reason why you would make it. You have to have the ability. If you don't have it, you won't make it. But
Mm,
just believe in yourself ultimately, because like you said earlier, one person opinion, doesn't matter about someone
yeah.
else's. Someone else's might mean completely different.
It's
So
interesting. It's interesting that you touch on ability,
yeah,
because I've got a funny story actually.
okay.
One of the guys who I used to work for, a guy called David Mallon, he was he's the CEO of Elvis Jesus. I'm not sure whether you've actually heard of Elvis Jesus. Like they're
No,
the fashion company. Like you could look them
all
up.
right.
Like back in the day, like they were a bit like Ed Hardy. Do you know Ed Hardy?
No,
No, you've got to check these out, man. You've got to check
all
these
right.
out, right?
I'll have a look. I'll have a look.
Um, but I was in a bar with him one day because I was working with him on
Yeah.
some stuff. I worked for Elvis Jesus for a little bit, and he just randomly came out and said, I played for Bournemouth, mate. I was like, what? He
Yeah.
was like, I played for Bournemouth. He was like, because I was a big lad, and at the
Mhm.
time, like you were touching on the point before,
Yeah.
sort of it was League Two, I think Bournemouth were in at the time, and Harry
All right.
Redknapp was the manager. He was saying,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, right, okay, yeah. I said, well, what happened there? He went, yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. Harry Redknapp would just stick us on because I was the big guy and say, right, mark him, batter him every single time the ball comes near him. And he said it was shit, so I left. So he just left. He said he said he didn't have any proper capability. Like he was just a big, strong lad. Like, and you know, obviously he knew the basics of football, and that was it. And he said, "Nah, bugger that. Like, I'm just going to go off and start my own business and stuff."
Yeah. Oh, well, fair play to him. He seems like he's doing all right for himself.
Yeah, he's done all right for himself. He's an interesting person. He's always he lives in Las Vegas, I think now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's pretty mad. But yeah, I always remember that story and just thinking him saying, you know, I didn't have the mental sort of capability of playing the game, but I had the physicality and the strength and everything else. So if someone said go and do that, he'd go and do that, like that kind of thing, you know.
I think that's, you know, that it's a great example, you know. People do, you know, get lucky, you know. There's situations where, you know, you might feel or you might think you're technically better than someone, and you're like, well, they're in a better position than I am, and it's sometimes it is just about being in the right place at the right time, and you know, having a bit of luck, and you know, someone likes you, you know, or someone likes the size of you, you know, that makes a huge difference. And I think that was one thing that I always kind of knew I had. You know, I got told a lot of various people, you know, all the time, your technical ability is great, you're great on the ball, you read the game well, like all that sort of stuff, you know, you know where you need to be, all that sort of stuff.
All the stuff that a Premier League footballer would probably want to have. It's just one thing I've noticed is I'm Bolton fan. Bolton are in League Two now.
Yeah.
Don't know half of the players, like I've never seen them, but they were drafted in by Ian Evatt, and these are big lads we're talking about, you know what I mean? It is a physical game in League Two. There's no denying that whatsoever. You know what I mean? And there's some big lads and there's some nasty tackles that go in when you're watching it.
And it's like, you know, I expected nasty tackles. Like I got used to that so much. Like I was one of them people that just got up and got on with it. You know, I never complained. Never dived. I was never a diver. You know. And it was kind of like I had all this ability, or I believed that I did, or you know, people said I didn't. And I always came back to you're too small, or you know, you're not big enough. And it was like that was already thrown down before, you know, anyone had even seen me play. Oh, he's too small, you know.
Not given like a proper chance. Like
was never given that chance. I think, you know, I won't name names, but there's a lad I know from where I live. His technical ability was, you know, unbelievable, and he's smaller than me, and that was the first thing people used to say about him. And it's like it used to drive me crazy. You know, you're constantly shot down before you're even given an opportunity. And I know exactly, if I spoke to this lad that I'm on about, you know, he would say the exact same thing. Was that like he did have unbelievable, probably better technical ability than I did, you know, and he was just thrown just because he was small, you know, and it wasn't fair. But that was because of, you know, maybe which club he was at, you know, and if he was at a bigger team, you know, maybe he would have been appreciated more. But you know, the stuff you can always kind of go, oh, well, if I was there, I would have been here. You know? But I don't regret anything I did.
It comes back to sort of looking back on things, isn't it, and sort of dwelling and thinking, oh, what if this and what if that? But it sort of happened, hasn't it? You know, you just sort of move forward.
Absolutely.
Which is, you know, obviously the mental side of things. Like, some people can never get over that. Like, you know, losing an opportunity like that. Some people can. You know, that's one of the things that we need to be talking about quite a lot more, I think. Not just cutting the cord and allowing people to just sort of drift away.
Yeah, I think I definitely do agree that there needs to be more of a platform there for, you know, I know there's obviously helplines and things for kind of people to reach out, but, you know, I think especially like, you know, the people who are in charge of running teams and committees and all that sort of stuff. People above clubs. They need to be doing more, in my opinion, to be able to help people coming out of football, because it's not easy. I've been very, I wouldn't say fortunate. I've worked very hard to get where I am now.
Yeah.
But other people might not have been so fortunate to the point where they probably, there probably is people there out there right now who played football who probably don't have jobs. And it's hard because I know exactly what they're going through. It's hard enough being told that you're not good enough and you can't play football for us again, or whoever they've been with, or after being released at a young age, and well, that must be hard in itself. But then actually realizing, I'm stuck now. I don't have a job. I've got bills to pay. All this sort of stuff. I always say that football's never a forever job.
Yeah.
Obviously, your body can only physically take you so far. Obviously, Ronaldo proves that you can go as long as you want.
What an absolute animal.
Yeah, just like, obviously he's made himself he's just so determined. He clearly shows why he's at the top of the game. But yeah, it's kind of like, for people that have come out and haven't got to where they want to be, it's kind of like pointing them in the right direction to go, like, well, he's a helping hand to get where you need to be. So I think, yeah, if there was anything I could kind of say and take from my experience, is that there isn't that more needs to be done in terms of helping people coming out of football, because I think it was not so long ago a young lad took his life from Man City's academy, and it was kind of just a shock to everyone, and it kind of shows that you can be playing for Man City 1 minute on top of the world, probably feel amazing, and then realizing you're not gonna come, and he's kind of
it's not nice, is it? It's not a nice situation at all.
And I think that's where that's not up to people like us. It's for people in the committees and FA, the PFA, all that sort of stuff, to be doing more.
Yeah.
To be supporting people coming out of football.
Put a campaign together, man.
Yeah.
Put our heads together. Get something sorted.
Yeah.
Now this is an interesting one, and need you to be brutally honest here, because there's lots of different ranges or sort of platforms of pay, but how much would you typically get paid in League Two as a professional footballer that you know of from your experience?
See, this was always one thing that was quite touchy subject with everyone that played football.
I think money isn't it? Like, in general, it's quite a taboo subject.
It was kind of like, no one ever talked about it.
Yeah.
And the club that I was at was never, like typically very good money. It wasn't, but I wasn't bothered. That was not
the reason why you was doing it
at all. I could have went and worked on sites and done whatever and done crap work, and not saying that it's crap work, but to me it was. But I didn't. I wanted to play football, and they could have given me less, and I'd have still played.
Yeah.
It was more the fact that I was doing that every day and having that experience. That's why. But I won't talk specifically about what I got offered, but I was on, I think, first year scholarship. I got £100 a week.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot, but for me coming out of school, it was perfect. I didn't need anything more. I didn't know what money was. I didn't have a perception of what money was worth. And it was kind of, I just did whatever I wanted with it. And then I got to the professional level, and the money again wasn't great, and it wasn't. I was in League Two. League Two is a pretty good league, and the money I was getting was £200 a week.
Yeah.
And it's not for kind of like the amount of sacrifice and the work that you put in and stuff, it probably wasn't enough. But it didn't bother me. That was not, like I said earlier, that wasn't, my interest in wanting to be a footballer. That was kind of,
it's more the passion around it.
It was just the love of playing football, and that, and at the time, the love of playing for Hartlepool as well. I think I wanted to stay at Hartlepool, especially the times where I was wanted by a lot of teams. Not to say that it ever would have worked out at other clubs, but I wanted to stay at Hartlepool, but I kind of wanted to feel wanted. I wanted to make sure that I was worth something to them. I didn't want to stay just for the sake of it.
After all the time and effort and
and
sacrifice that you'd put in for them.
Absolutely, and it was kind of like I would rather have had a longer contract, but less money. To be able to, and that was eventually what I got. I got a longer contract, and it kind of gave me a bit of a platform to kind of grow a bit. But obviously, it didn't work out in the end, and that it is what it is. But I don't have any regrets. But yeah, I think if you're obviously going to go, I don't know what it's like now. It might have changed, but money isn't amazing at them leagues. I wouldn't think it was, depending on what. But obviously, if you're playing regular first team football, that changes, that would change probably from season to season depending on what contract you've agreed, or I wouldn't say.
I thought it'd probably be around about 500 to about 2,000 a week in League Two. That's what I was sort of thinking.
Probably an established first team player would probably get something like that.
Yeah,
but I was very young. I was only 17 when I signed my professional contract.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like I didn't have any perception of what was good money. I kind of had the support from my parents to kind of give me guidance that say you should be getting more than that, and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, in my head, I still wanted to just play football. And the fact that I was going to get a professional contract before my scholarship finished, it was a no-brainer. And
it's a big achievement.
Massive.
Massive achievement.
Massive achievement, and that's something that no one can ever take away from me. The fact that I've actually done that, and then also like looking at my debut, I literally made my debut and then I signed my contract the day after. Well, sorry, not the day after. The day after, like a couple of hours after the game, I signed the contract. And it was, I can't even explain the feeling of when I came onto the pitch. It was just surreal. And that if there's anything that I can kind of, for people to push on and to become a footballer, I think that making your professional debut, there's not a feeling that I've experienced like it yet.
Yeah.
All my family in the crowd watching. Still got videos and stuff, photos from the day.
Proud day for you, isn't it? Like you've all that sacrifice, all the determination to get to that point to stand next to the linesman, putting your number up and going on the pitch.
And it's kind of like you don't see it in that way until you stop playing and you kind of look at it from the other angle. The time, it's just a normal thing to you, and you kind of don't realise what you've done. I could sit and go, oh, I've failed. I've not done what I wanted to do. I've failed in football. All that sort of stuff. I could get really down about it all, and I choose not to, and I choose to look at it in a different way, and kind of look at it and go, look at all the amazing things I did do when I was a footballer.
Well, what you've achieved being so young as well, like that's the thing, like signing your first pro contract 17. That's impressive. That's really impressive. And you've experienced something that people go the whole life and die without experiencing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is pretty mad, isn't it?
And I think, yeah, exactly. And it's like, people would dream to have been in the positions that I've been in. And like obviously I said there, you don't see it in that way at the time until you stop. So when people, I get questions and it's like, did you do enough, or do you miss it, or do you think you could have done more? Was it anyone's fault? It's no one's fault. It just didn't work out. But I wouldn't change anything that I ever did to kind of get to where I wanted to be.
That's a really good attitude, mate.
Yeah, it's kind of like I try and turn everything that happened into a positive.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, and kind of had to make my own decision to kind of say I'm not going to be a footballer anymore. But now that I can kind of look back on it in a positive way, and it wasn't like this wasn't a long time ago. This was only like 2 years ago. Like this all started to happen. Like 2-3 years ago. I'm 10 and 23 this year, and I think I left when I was 20. I left Hartlepool. That was the last club I was at.
You've had a lot that's happened in that space that
space
time.
of 3 years has been crazy, and and if I hadn't have left football, I wouldn't have had all them experiences.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like now I look back, people ask me about certain things and say, "Oh yeah, I did this," and it's brilliant to look at it that way, because even though people will always say, "Oh, he's the one who could have been somewhat good, or he could have been playing at a better club or whatever," what the world's like. People have opinions and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll always look back and go, like, what I did, I'm very proud of. For the reason why I still have shirts, and one of my game shirts from that was a game I played against Barnet. We were in a relegation battle. The club was really struggling at that point. And I remember coming on that game specifically, and I remember just like playing my heart out. It was as if I now I look back at it, it was as if I knew that was going to be my last game. I was still in a good position in terms of at the club. I still had a long time in my contract left, but it was kind of like I felt like this was the last chance saloon for me. This was my chance. I'd fought my way back up through the reserves, and I'd got to the bench, and I'd come on. I think I played about 30 minutes, and we ended up getting beat 2-1, which was devastating. But I remember coming off and going, "I've done everything I can there. I've had a really good game."
Yeah.
I remember, and I don't know if it was just me had it in my head that this is what happened, but I just remember getting a stand as I was walking off. Everyone had walked in. A lot of the players had walked in. I think it was kind of, it was a tough situation. Everyone was really down. It was looking likely we were going to get relegated, and and I kind of I stayed out, and I clapped the fans, and I remember getting a standing ovation back off the fans that were there. And a lot of these, a lot of the people in the crowd were mates of mine. I was a hometown lad. I was playing for my hometown club, and it was no one can ever take it away. I think that day was just as special as my debut, because I remember it was my brother came to watch, and I remember getting a big hug off him after the game had finished, and you just said I remember him swearing in my ear and saying I was effing brilliant, and it was kind of like, I knew I'd done everything I could to kind of get another game,
you left it all on the pitch and did everything that you possibly could.
And I think kind of showed in the fans' response as well. And the manager that was there at the time, it was Dave Jones, and he was kind of hated by Hartlepool fans. He didn't have a good time there, and he kind of just started to show some faith in me, to start playing me. And he got sacked a couple of days later. And for someone like me, who was obviously coming through the ranks, and I was still a youth team player, like I wasn't. It was like I was a youth team player anyway. I wasn't established, And then another manager came in. I think some people took over that were within the club, and I wasn't in the squad the week after, and it was, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I remember speaking to like everyone involved, and it was kind of like, why am I not involved? It was kind of this like, how I thought I'd done everything I could to kind of be in the squad and be a part of the team. I felt like I'd left everything on the pitch, like you said, and it just didn't happen. And that was probably that.
That's got to be dreadful, like feeling that way. Yeah.
That when I saw the team, I trained all week, trained really well. I was playing out my skin because I've got confidence, and it come to the end of the week, and my name wasn't on the sheet. I remember crying. I had to walk out, and it was absolutely devastating. Like,
I can imagine, man.
for a lot of people that look back and go, oh yeah, he was a hard good lad, but it was more than that for me. I grew up watching pools, and it was something that I'd always dreamt of doing. And it actually happened. But then when the actual fact that it was more the fact that the club were in such a difficult position, I wanted to kind of, could I do something to help the club, like get out of the position that we were in? And I wasn't given the chance to be able to do it, and I kind of just felt like I can't explain into words how bad it felt, but it did feel that bad.
Yeah.
It just felt like I'd just been totally disregarded, everything that I'd done in that game. And it might be me being blindsided and thinking I had a good game, but I felt like I'd done anything and everything possible to be in the squad that next week. And I just remember it being heartbreaking. But yeah, that is also one of the harsh truths of football, is so cutthroat, and it's so, you've got to expect stuff like that to happen, because I imagine it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway, Jack, honestly, thank you for being so truthful. Thank you for coming on today, and obviously taking the time to tell your story, to be honest, mate, because, you're a fantastic lad, and a fantastic footballer as well, who has done really well for himself. If you actually look at it, you should be really proud of yourself. So thank you so much for coming on and spending the time telling your story here, mate.
No, thanks for having me, Mitch. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, mate. Right, until next time, we'll definitely get you on next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, take it easy, mate.
Yeah, you too, mate. Bye.